With the Fill tool, you can change the fill and stroke colors of shapes and text objects. Interestingly enough, the Fill tool should really be named the Gradient tool, as it shines when it comes to adding gradients to fills and strokes. It even has a keyboard shortcut, the letter G, which is more suitable for a gradient applying tool. Okay, but how does this tool work? With an object selected, grab the Fill tool from the Tools panel. Notice how the context toolbar changes. Now it displays options you can use to add solid colors and gradients to the selected object. The context option allows you to choose which part, the fill or the stroke of the object, is going to be affected. From the Type drop-down list, you can choose to remove the color by selecting None. You can choose Solid to add a solid color. And you can also choose one of the gradient fills, such as Linear, Radial, Elliptical, Conical, and Bitmap. Clicking the color box will let you either adjust the solid color fill or adjust the gradient fill, if you chose any gradient as the fill type. And this is where the fun begins. The box that pops up lets you customize every aspect of the gradient fill. On top you have the slider with color stops, which, when moved, will add or reduce the amount of color assigned to it. Next, you got the gradient options, so let's take a look at them. The type determines the type of the gradient and can be changed to elliptical, radial, conical, etc. Position controls the position of an individual color stop on the gradient slider. Notice that if your gradient has only 2 color stops, you can't change their position. The midpoint adjusts the amount of a certain color spread in between 2 color stops. Color changes the color of the selected color stop. By clicking Insert, you can add a color stop. Click Copy to duplicate the selected color stop. Click Delete to remove a color stop. But you can also simply click on the gradient slider to add a color stop and drag it away from the gradient slider to remove one. Opacity controls the opacity of a color stop, and Reverse reverses the order of the gradient stops. Using the gradient panel is one way of adding a gradient fill to an object. The other one is a bit more intuitive and less technical. All you need to do is to select the object you want to add the gradient to, grab the Fill tool, and click and drag to create a gradient. You should see a gradient slider that works the same as the slider we just talked about. Click on an empty space between color stops to add another color stop. To change its color, head over to the color switcher in the Tools panel, double-click on a color swatch to invoke the color spectrum and choose the color you'd like. To remove a color stop, click on one and then press Delete on your keyboard. Grab the gradient bar by one of its endpoints to move the gradient around. Hold down the Shift key to constrain the movement to 45-degree increments. Whenever you want to add gradients to either fill or stroke, remember that you can do it with the Fill tool. There's a number of gradient types to choose from and they are highly customizable, so creating gradients looking exactly the way you want them to look is an easy and enjoyable process.